We light the Christ candle, which represents the living God within all of our hearts. Amen.
The daily word today is prosperity. I claim prosperity now. When I feel tempted to wish for a more prosperous life, I remember my prosperity begins at the level of my thinking. I focus on my thoughts, on the many blessings already in my life, and feel grateful. From this place of gratitude, it becomes easy to notice more and more blessings around me. This awareness helps me develop an attitude of prosperity. I tend to my thoughts of prosperity as though they are flowers in a garden. I plant them in good soil and nurture them with water and sunshine. This rich environment allows prospering ideas to take root and grow. As I nurture these ideas, I am abundantly blessed in life, love, health, and joy. In Psalm 36:8, they feast on the abundance of your house, and you give them drink from the river of your delights.
Now, if Patty DeForty Catanaugh were here, she would have something wonderful to share with us. And I'm going to do it on her behalf. That, Wayne owned a sailboat, and she was trying to sell this sailboat. And now she didn't have any buyers. So she found an organization that works with veterans to give them the opportunity to learn sailing and sail. And she donated the boat to this organization. And in the course of that, she was invited to join their board of directors. And so she has this whole new field of activity in her life that she's engaging with people that are really being helped by her donation. She's engaging at a level of policy making, and she's getting a chance to sail with lots of people. So she was very happy to tell me about that. And I said, well, now that's something that you can share when you come, because she she loves the idea of getting here, but she's not always up to it. So, and this does not preclude her from telling her own version of this happy development. And then also I would just like to point out that the new Unity magazines are quite snazzy, and Santana is a featured voice in it. Did you know that Santana was a truth student? Carlos Santana, Judy does, yeah, exactly. Awesome, he says, choose divinity. Cool idea, very cool. So there are some on the, I put them out on the table in the front. Hopefully they're, you can pay $4 at some point, put it in one of the jars, because we sell them for $4. And anybody else? Then we get to have another delightful number from our musical geniuses. When I selected this topic, why are we so divided? It was a few weeks ago. And here it lands today, after we've had quite an incident in Washington, D.C. We put our Capitol on the cover here, our beloved Capitol. So is there anyone who has not asked themselves this question, say in the last month, why are we so divided? We all are pondering this. And people say to one another, has someone said to you in the last recent, months, why are we so divided? Is there an answer? Yes, there is. There is an answer. And the answer is because we are so attached to the ball, to the knot of emotion that resides in the chakra here at the solar plexus that feeds us energy, thinking that we're right and we're justified. And that's something that is a real obstacle to our spiritual growth. So today I'm inviting you to get in touch with that, to get in touch with that knot within yourself of emotion that justifies whatever position you hold. Because I may say something today that steps on your toes. I may say something that offends you or insults you. That's not my intention. But if we can all set aside the attachments that we have to our rationales, to our positions, to our justifications for why we think the way we do, can we just let that soften and be able to just think without reacting? That's what we need to do to get beyond these places of being stuck in ruts of opinion that we can't get beyond. We've got to get out in front of these conversations that are holding us in disagreement. So, I just want to say, this is a pretty short talk, so I think I can interject some stuff here. What sustains me, what's been sustaining me this week, is that I have come across so many different biographical treatments of individuals who stood for the common good and in most cases paid a price. First of all, I watched this film of Captain Sully. How many of you have seen this? Sully. I had no idea the controversy that he had to live through after landing the plane on the Hudson River. Oh my word. Oh my word. What a man of integrity. What a man of caring. He cared about the lives of the people on that plane above all things. So I find that film to be very inspiring. If you haven't seen it, you really should see it. Captain Sullivan. What is his first name? It's an odd first name. And how he loved everyone. And gave credit at the end. When he was at the NTSB final hearing, and proved himself to be correct, when he insisted that they hadn't taken into account the time that it would have taken to assess the situation, and he didn't even do any calculations and make a decision. And when they did that and ran the simulations, they found that it would have been a fatal crash in every situation but landing in the river. And he made that decision just by guessing, by eyeballing it, as he called it, out of his years of experience, knowing what was possible for a plane to do. Amazing, amazing. Oh, and I was going to say that what impressed me the most about him was that at the final hearing at the NTSB, and they said, "Captain Sullivan, you did it." And he said, "No, it wasn't me. It was all of us. My co-pilot, the Coast Guard that came in to rescue the people, the helicopter pilots, the New York police." He said the entire rescue was performed in 24 minutes because all of the community responded with such efficiency and speed. It's quite a tale, as everybody said, It's the first time we've had some really good news in a long time. And then there was this film called American Sniper, and I don't have the name of that person. Anybody seen that? Huh? American Sniper. I was put off by that title. I thought it was a fiction of some dramatized war drama story. No, but no, it was from the memoirs of the most, they call him the most deadly. He had the most successful shots. He was a Marine. He was in the Green Beret. And yeah, he was given the job of being what they called a sniper. And it showed from his memoirs scenes from the battlefield. He was in Iraq, and he was not, you know, um, careless. I mean, he was very restricted in whether he pulled the trigger or not. And he only did it under orders and under threat when it was an obvious um, precaution to stop the killing of our own men. And it was very hard for him to come back and adjust to day-to-day living, but he tried very hard and he succeeded. And the story of his, his life and his heroism and his dedication to his country is so moving. It's so authentic. And I don't want to give away the ending, so I won't. Okay, but that's another person whose strength, whose character, whose dedication to ideals inspires me. This is the kind of leadership that we are looking for in our own society right now, from day to day. I was watching several different versions of A Christmas Carol. A Christmas Carol shows that Charles Dickens had deep insight into human dynamics, the human condition, and deep compassion. And so I did a little research about the life of Charles Dickens. Do you realize that he never went to school? He had no education. He was in a children's workhouse because his father died to support his family. And yet, it said in Wikipedia that he became the most famous person of his day, the most beloved, the most popular. And the first thing that he wrote was the Pickwick Papers, which was a serialized publication. It was the first thing he submitted, and it caught on like wildfire. People loved it. It was funny. It was it was written as a memoir of an organization that had existed fictionally, and it just poked fun at their attitudes and their characters and their personality, and people just delighted in it. And he wrote that. That was his first. I'm just saying, he didn't have to like go here and go there, beg to be accepted. No, and with no education in literacy, he accomplished this, and yet wrote one of the great novels of the Romantic era. A Tale of Two Cities is considered one of the great novels. Has anybody read that? Isn't it wonderful? I mean, what a plot. That's the one that ends with the guy saying, "'Tis a far, far better thing I do than I have ever done before." Whoa, okay, not giving that away either. So Charles Dickens is an amazing, great soul who accomplished so much just by his own insight and expressing it masterfully for us all to benefit from. And then I came across a preview of a movie called All the King's Men. Anybody know about that? Well, All the King's Men, it was a novel, but it parallels the life of Huey Long. But it's about a fictional person in a later decade. I tried to figure out why he would do that, but anyway, that's what he did. So I looked about the real Huey Long, the real Huey Long. Huey Long, you've heard of him, right? You've heard the name Huey Long? He was the governor of Louisiana in the 1920s, and then he went on to be the senator from Louisiana. He was assassinated 2 years into his senatorial. But what he did while he was a political leader, he capped the profits of Standard Oil Company in Louisiana at $50 million and taxed the rest and used that money to pay for books for the schools, to put men to work building roads and buildings. He even had free health care for the prison inmates, for dental and health and medical care for them. And his theme was share the wealth. No one called him a socialist either. But he still incited hatred. Was he a bad guy? I can't see that he was. So all these different personalities came marching across my radar screen in my mind of how they stood by ideas of the greater good, not their own personal interest, but greater good. And it feeds my soul. It inspires us all to see people living their lives like that and making such a huge difference. Without spending a lot of time in preparation, they just seem to step out into life and make it work. Have it take off. Catch on. So, back to why are we so divided? Well, in a way you could say because we want to be. Because we want to be right. Because we want to be the one who prevails. Because we want to have the gratification of this feeling, which is part of the lower energy chakras, or might say the denser. And that's what we have to aim to dissolve in ourselves if we're going to be able to get beyond where we're stuck and create new solutions. So, oh boy, here's some of the issues that really divide us. Gun control, abortion, vaccines, wealth distribution, healthcare, and climate change. And because we get attached to the case or the rationale, then irrationality and emotion arises. Do I need to give an example of that, or do you understand what I mean? Example? Understand. Understand? I mean, so, okay, well, I'll just go ahead with this. So, in the matter of gun control, now you know what I imagine, and I've had this fantasy for a long time, that local colleges, our community colleges, could have formal debates, public debates. And debate is not a free-for-all argument. It is a structured and it's a structured event, and there are an equal number of speakers for both sides of a question. Each speaker speaks for a certain amount of time, and so information is brought forth on both sides of a question, and the audience is there to hear it. And there can be more than one debate on the same question until people are satisfied and resolved that they can have a solution that works for everyone, that moves us forward. So with gun control, that's got that emotional trigger that, you know, we have the constitutional right to bear arms, and we do. But what are we trying to do with the whole conversation is we're trying to protect our society from people who go crazy and shoot up and kill people, which is happening quite frequently. And almost in every case, we find that the shooter was not properly investigated, that their instability was obvious, but not applied to their right to have guns, and that we need to have more careful oversight over the use and possession of guns. In Sweden, people have guns, they're trained to use guns, and they have no gun violence. So we shouldn't be stopped by the emotional reaction that says, nobody's going to take my gun away from me and I don't want any gun control. We should not be stopped by that. We should be able to get beyond that and say, we understand, that's not what we're trying to do. And then this issue of abortion, which is so divisive. My daughter said, "Mom, can't you just not use that word? It's so grisly. Can't you just talk about women's health?" I go, "No, I have to." Because what we're looking at is a person's right to have a safe, legal abortion to terminate a pregnancy that they don't want to have. Have you considered how sad it is for a child to come into the world that's unwanted, to live their life unwanted? And even when they're given up for adoption, there's still a sense of abandonment. And I'm not saying I'm against adoption, but for a woman to give up 9 months of her life and then bring forth a child that she gives away, that's traumatizing. That's not a very good choice. I remember as a little girl sitting in my grandmother's sofa, and this would have been in the late 40s, and them talking about women who have children out of wedlock, how disgraceful it was, and that those women should have to be forced to give up their children if they have a child out of wedlock. And I remember sitting there thinking, well, if I ever have a baby out of wedlock, nobody's going to make me give up my own flesh and blood for nothing. I was only 4 years old. Think of that. Like, no. But, yeah. Does anyone have the right to interfere with someone's choice to not go through with a birth that they didn't want in the first place? It's humane. It's humane to do that. No one's, and the thing that stops us is that there's this irrational reaction that says, oh, we don't want to force women to have abortions. Or, late-term abortions are close to murder. No, we're saying in the first 12 weeks, we're saying it's a given. No one's trying to force anyone to do anything. But what we're trying to offer is the safety of the choice. And with vaccines, that is such a hot issue. There's never hardly any listening on both sides to the exchange of information. And what's missing is the information that with the rise in the use of vaccines, there is right alongside of it the rise in asthma, food allergies, neurological disorders, autoimmune disorders. And it's not the use of vaccine. I mean, the principle of immunizing is a sound principle, but the way that it's being administered to the human body is causing harm. And Joseph Kennedy is aware of this. And the pharmaceutical companies are not willing to take it into consideration because they're so attached to the income they get from it. So there's a lot of perspective that needs to be gained on the use of vaccines. And wealth distribution, I mean, we're just starting to be pushed. That's one of the good things about COVID. We're being pushed to play with the idea of universal basic income, UBI. It's being talked about a lot with the stimulus checks that are coming out. That's very close to universal basic income. In Canada, their stimulus checks are $2,000 each month. And what we're finding out is that as the government issues these checks to everyone and increases the debt, there doesn't seem to be any consequence so far. So I think they're getting more and more intrepid about issuing more money to more people so that money just goes right into the economy and everyone benefits. Now, healthcare. Healthcare is something that we've been stumbling over. We've been unable to embrace the idea that everyone has the right to healthcare, free medical care. And yet in industrialized nations in the world, they are pulling it off. And they're not waiting months and months for an appointment, and the quality of care is not deteriorating like we were told it would happen. Oh, if you do that, you're going to have to just wait months and months. You won't get an appointment, and your health care will be not be substandard, and the only people who will get good health care will be the rich people who can afford to pay for it. That has not been the way it has played out in other countries. I can see in one case, my own daughter, who, because she married a German man, she became a German resident and was entitled to their health care. And if she had been here in America with the treatments that she needed for Crohn's disease, our whole family would have been bankrupt. But as it is, she's gotten excellent care, and she's living with the symptoms courageously, and she's succeeding, she's prevailing. So, and then the last one, climate change. I just got to say this, you know, I would love to see debate on climate change, because there's so many stipulations, so many facts being brought forward, but people seem to forget to read the basic science book that says carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere creates a greenhouse effect that holds heat from the sun that raises the temperature of the atmosphere. It's a simple experiment. It's simple science, and we are doing ourselves in. We are warming ourselves past the point where we can survive sustainably in this earth. Can you picture a time 100 years from now when we no longer burn fossil fuels? We have found a completely new technology for distribution of goods and services and transportation. You know what I picture is that everybody donates their old sofas, and it's put on a hook. Can you just imagine a curved hook with a sofa dangling from it, and it goes by the house, and when you're ready to go somewhere, you just go out and you you sit up on one of them sofas, and you just sail to the next intersection, and then anyway, it's kind of like it is comical, I think. But you know, we don't have a new technology in mind, and we need one. We need a new way to distribute goods, services, and transport ourselves. A totally new technology. So we need to get out in front of these issues with better leadership, and that is what the spiritual community can provide. You know, we can be a fertile field for tilling the soil. First of all, for healing these knots of irrational emotion that keep us tied and stuck. And second of all, for bringing in information, new genius thinkers who have alternative ideas that may or may not be practical. But to hear them, to give voice to them, is a special sacred thing. We can brainstorm new initiatives that require unified action. That's the key, is that we have to be ready to take unified action to accomplish our objectives, to achieve a sustainable and just world. One thing that I think would be great is if we had better management of packaging. Like, there's no reason why Congress can't pass a law that says all products have to have printed instructions on the packaging of how to dispose of it, and it has to be a sustainable way of disposing. And they can be encouraged to move away from using paper made of wood to using hemp that is biodegradable and more sustainable. We need our trees, you know. There is a need for for more vigilant protection of water and trees. I mean, the water that's harvested to put in plastic bottles, where we're finding out that drinking from plastic bottles has a residue and it upsets the ecological balance to remove that water. And who has the power to oversee the management of water resources? Right now, nobody. All of us, it's going to take all of us to come together and insist that our water is protected. And our forests as well. You know, Michael Moore had that movie called Planet of the Humans. Did anybody see that? It was about how green energy isn't so green. And there was a lot of debate about that. It was debunked. But one thing that stands from that movie is that what we call biomass as a fuel is actually trees that are chopped up. Trees. It's not some kind of fuel source that we don't need. It's our very trees, biomass. So that's not really a good idea. Still thinking about that youth service program. How wonderful it is for young people to feel needed, to be useful, to be removed from the dynamics that they're in, you know, their friends, their family, all that stuff, and just get a fresh place where they go to a dormitory, where they have rules and they have requirements, and they're trained to do something of service to somebody they don't even know, and they do it, and they achieve a feeling of, you know, significance, feeling needed, feeling useful, feeling that their contribution means something. They return from an experience like that so much more whole and stronger of character, I think. And I think that would be a wonderful direction for us to move in. And last is air quality, our air quality. Oh boy. I think I've covered that when I talked about the global warming. Okay, air quality. Just to say that places that are very highly populated right now are starting to smell bad. They're starting to smell like you're behind a truck, exhaust pipe. So we can address these concerns, and we must address them pretty consistently from here on in. The way out, this is the way out, and I want to start an online whole thing called thewayout.com and do blogs and bring forward experts and conversations that move us forward, that get us unstuck from the irrational emotional reactions that we've fallen into, perhaps. As Lincoln said in the second inaugural address, with malice toward none, with charity for all, let us move forward to find new solutions. So for our inner experience, I'm calling our meditation time the inner experience. As we prepare for that, let's get in touch with these knots of emotion and let them dissolve into grace. Let wisdom be the light of your mind. Let it be. So let's have a musical shift. We turn within and we find that our inner light reveals our true purpose. Open every level of our being. To the willingness to grow. We forgive ourselves, forgive everyone. We hold no one in enmity. We welcome the future. Ask for trust. We incorporate trust every fiber of our being. We are filled with the light of understanding, the radiance of love, fullness of peace. Now, within. Beauty of the lilies. Christ was the glory that transfigures you and ever. For this ongoing journey, for this insight, this life.
In unity, we take every opportunity to bless our love offerings and make a sacred ritual of giving. We let Spirit guide us in all our affairs. We affirm abundance for ourselves, for this work, and for all humanity. So let us take our offering in our hands and bless it with our offering blessing together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I give and all that I receive.
We are so grateful for these love offerings, for all the love offerings that are given to this ministry that come in the mail, for all the love that is sent through the hearts of people. We feel the blessing and we acknowledge the source. Thank you, God. Amen. Thank you. Now, just want to say that the Intentional Meditation Group is meeting every Wednesday at 6 p.m. And our congregation is holding together pretty healthy. We're all still praying for Reverend John Williams. He will be undergoing treatment for an appearance in his lung. And we're praying for him, but all of our other folks are holding pretty steady. I'm very proud of it. We don't have that many requests for prayer for healing. And I'm getting my strength back gradually. One thing that's really helped me is acupuncture with Helen Rowe. So thank you, God, for all of your healing activities and energy that comes into our lives. So let's make our closing circle. And our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. Love of God. Yeah, go ahead, Judy. You need a microphone?
Okay, Diane mentioned certain controversial topics. Many of you have read The Conversations with God, Neil Walsh. How many?
Yeah.
Okay, I've met him several times because he used to come to the different Unity churches in Detroit. And I asked him about Star Trek. And he said, in one of my books, so Judy the Scholar found it, it's in book 3. Neil Donald Walsh said that he interviewed Gene Roddenberry,
Oh.
the creator of Star Trek. And it's in his book 3 that most of this, or all of this, of his ideas, came from God. And he said the Council of Nine, and you can look it up. So Diane has this vision of furniture and other things going on big trucks on hooks, and we go out and get them. Well, in Star Trek, we don't need that. We only have to have a transporter. You put yourself, you put properties, you put animals, you put ETs in there, and you go other places. So, well, just think about it. Where did that idea come from? And if somebody has it, why can't we have it? We have a lot of smart people.